Friends, family, and co-workers gathered here this morning at Arlington National Cemetery to bury BATF agent
Oh, this is a scene with Burke, who brought the box of which represents John Brigham's life, which paid off later when she has her life represented in a cardboard box as well. But whilst the scene's good, we just needed to move on. We didn't need it. Took too long. Not that it was slow, just that we didn't need it.
To be responsible for all 5 deaths of the alleged drug traffickers, including a mother and her infant son. Agent Starling attained some measure of celebrity 10 years ago when she was given information by Dr. Hannibal the Cannibal Lecter, which led to the rescue of Catherine Martin, the daughter of the former U.S.
Here's Burke.
He also shot to death serial murderer
He was in the shootout.
Martin's abductor, the Buffalo Bill killer. However, when she returns to work later this week, she won't be so celebrated. Attorney Telford Higgins, representing one of the families of those slain, says he will file a wrongful death suit.
There's the flag that would be given to the officer at a funeral. And his guns. That's why I needed his guns later, but we discovered that nobody even questioned that she wouldn't have another set of guns, which she would certainly have another set of guns.
Except the dog. Don't want to be reminded.
I want to be reminded.
Oh, I like this scene, particularly because I like the caretaker, and if he watches this, my apologies to him, because I thought he did a wonderful job, but we just one of those things that bit the dust because we needed to get into the story faster. But I thought his take on the caretaker was really good.
Bad in there for my asthma. The mold on the beds is really bad. I can hardly breathe in her. I can't go down there. The stairs are really bad on my leg.
I know my way. Come running if I need you. You be up here?
I'll be in the trailer.
That's fine.
I finally took this out because it becomes a kind of false alarm. I always felt it was a false note. It's initially scary, but I hate cheating the audience where it actually finally leads nowhere. Other than the only thing that comes out of this is that she realized all the Hannibal files have been pirated and have been emptied, because also there was this whole subtext of institutions and public money that when there's a cutback, things are just when people are laid off, the depth and regions of responsibility just evaporate, and people just leave it to it, assuming somebody else will deal with it. And of course what happens is things just fall into decay, rot, records are lost, etc., etc. So it was an interesting part of the idea of notion of bureaucracy, but it just wasn't worth it. All these files are empty. But she's so close to Hannibal's cell. I always liked that fact she took the label just as an old artifact. But she's so near the cell where she came in, where she first met Barney, that she couldn't resist not going down there. And in the book, this is expanded into homeless living and all kinds of things down there, which I just thought was too much, too big for the film. Didn't need it. There's Barney, reminding Barney. I think Barney's now introduced in a far better way on the street, picking up a pigeon. This shows that people are living there. Strange kind of order. And there's the beginning of the entrance to the glass door that separated her with Hannibal, even the chair she sat in. Empty cell, but when she gets in there, she realizes that somebody's been in there, has been living there.
No.
So it's a vagrant, homeless. But I didn't figure this was worth it.
I can go. I want to
Sit
go
down,
with Christ.
sir.
I can go with
It's
Jesus.
all right.
More searching. This is more internet stuff. We just had to thin it out. I always knew there'd be too much internet stuff, but it was kind of interesting. And this is all kind of how it would be on the actual internet. You have whole sections dealing with all kinds of absolutely perversions and really weird stuff that people would look up or buy. Researching this film, gave me a kind of even more deeper understanding of how strange people can get. Explanation of the X-ray files with the crack, without the crack, separating them by about 16 years. And eventually I'd cut it out because the X-ray was a red herring. In fact, just underscores the fact that they had no clues. So we thought it was better to leave well alone and make the first X-ray a way of introducing Mason Verger to her. I think I partly explained this away in the main part of the DVD commentary. I think Il Mostro was an idea that's rather more successful in the book than trying to make two characters work, one particularly who's abstract, in the film. And so I was torn between covering it, not covering it. I fundamentally never really believed in it, even though it works nicely in the book, because it ties up nicely with Patsy's character as a once celebrated cop who has now come down in the world and has lost his celebrity. So that was all part of, Patsy's characterization, not just being disappointed with himself, but sensing that his wife may be disappointed with him. And therefore, that builds up and contributes to the insecurity that Ronaldo Patsy has for marrying a woman who is too beautiful for his station, if you put it in simple terms. So the constant references to that person who was polishing the floor was in fact that the Il Mostro may have actually been a caretaker in one of the government buildings. The Il Mostro was an actual character who they arrested, they put on trial, and the trial was basically given up on the basis of, lack of evidence. And so he was turned loose, and I think died shortly afterwards from a heart attack, actually. But he was a real character. But we tried, and I think we failed with this, so I simply removed it. It was just too puzzling. Who was this person? So we took it out.
His first sonnet in La Vita Nuova. If he commented privately as well, if he wrote to a Capone, to which one would it be, do you think?
Introduction to Hannibal, where I didn't want to show who it was, of course, for as long as possible, but I would start to recognize his voice. Instead, I went up to the table and saw all the scholars talking about this person who wanted the job, was proposing himself for the post of being the curator. And I suddenly realized all this didn't really mean much, and we didn't need it. We can carry instead his voice at a distance, telling us what's happening, stay with Patsy, because otherwise this character becomes so mysterious that I'm actually working against what I was trying to avoid. And therefore it was better for Patsy just to walk up behind him and say, Dr. Fell. So we got rid of that.
Thank you.
Dr. Fell, Chief Inspector Rinaldo Pazzi of the Questura.
Commendatore.
The only difference here is he mentions here, again, he talks briefly about Il Mostro, right? And he says he denies it. He said, no.
I was wondering if...
Predecessor implies I have the job. Unfortunately, I don't. Not yet. Though I am hopeful. They are letting me look after the library. For a stipend.
I see. Yes, well...
What do you think happened to him?
to the signore. Who can say? Perhaps he ran off. But that's a love affair. Yeah. Anyway,
Not another victim of Il Mostro, I hope.
no, that I'm sure we find in Mostro's victims.
I never actually met Signora de Bonaventura, but I have read several of his monographs in the Nuova Antologia.
The officers who first checked didn't find any sort of farewell or suicide notes. I was wondering if you...
If I happen to come across anything in the Capone library, stuffed in a drawer or a book, yes, I'll call you at once.
Thank you.
You've been reassigned.
Pardon?
You were on the Il Mostro case, I think I read.
Yes, that's right.
And now you're on this. This is much less grand a case, I would think.
Well, if I thought of my work in those terms, yes, I guess I'd agree.
A missing person.
So?
Were you unfairly dismissed from the grander case, or did you deserve it?
Regarding this one, Dr. Fell, are the Signora's personal effects still at the Palazzo?
Mm-hmm. Packed neatly in 4 cases with an inventory. Alas, no note.
Oh. Well, I'll send someone over to pick them up. Thank you for your help.
So nice shooting there, it's brilliant. He catches him up.
Have you heard about Botticelli?
Who?
Botticelli, Sandro Botticelli.
Not since the middle school art class, I'm afraid.
All those awful pictures in the papers of the monster's victims.
Yeah, this is the final reference to the Il Monstro and his way he would arrange his victims' bodies as a clue, and he's giving him the clue.
Remind me of Botticelli.
Botticelli poster in one of the walls, on the frames on the walls.
Maybe a clue.
That's why all those pictures you see behind him in the Questura are, not all of them, but some of them are photographs from, pathology photographs from the actual scene of the crime. So when he goes back to the police station, he remembers, back to the police station, he is able to use that information to basically put down those other sniggering colleagues. There's the Il Mostro. And these 2 guys are always amused by the fact of his relationship with his wife. There. He catches it. They irritate him. So he uses this information, checks it out. I think it leads down a path of confusion. It's interesting, but it's like, you've really got to think it through, think what relation this is. And you start to think that you're trying to tell the audience something as a clue in relation to Hannibal, and we're not. It's purely by the way, so it's really, obscure. So there's the photograph of the girl. Ah, this was a pity. Priest playing soccer at night. And they're in a kind of time and process and code of silence. So, but ironically, nobody says you can't play soccer. So they're hammering a ball around in the courtyard outside. And then we come to this. But I liked it, but it took too long. Longer track. That's through the Capone library itself. Coming into Capone room and then into the long room where we put the piano. Now this is Tony's version. This is his music of what he suggested we might use at the beginning. as a thematic. This is him playing and his composing. It's pretty good, huh? But it's very rich, and I think we finally went for the Goldbergs because it's so almost metronome-ish. It's very cool, whereas this is much warmer, and we felt the coldness was more appropriate.
But you may lack perspective. In our discussions down in the dungeon, it was apparent to me that your father, the dead night watchman, figures largely in your value system. I think your success...
This is just a longer version of the letter, which, like all things in all movies, you know, if you're sensible, you're usually looking for ways of abbreviating without undermining subtext and story. It was an adjustment in the structural positioning of the where she received the letter. We want to start the kick in the story quicker, faster, get her to it, and therefore get at least a thought process going between them, you know, sooner. And interesting, on those two shots, I shot Florence in a very cool, underpopulated way. So the Florentines, I think, Natanz are rather shocked at how Florence looked, the way we shot it. And I said, well, it's the way I would always envisioned Florence without tourists. And so, you know, and besides, the Palazzo Vecchio looks beautiful when it's empty. This looks beautiful when it's empty. It's kind of much more romantic, lonelier, and without all those people kicking around. In fact, every year the Florentines have to put up with an absolute nightmare of invasion of tourism.
Computer screens. Is that accurate? Please tell me, truly, Special Agent Starling. Regards, your old pal, Hannibal Lecter, MD.
Arrival of a letter in what was supposed to be a Las Vegas remailing service. And these are just footage of what might happen, what does happen, these remailing services, which actually exist. I'm trying to work out why they have them for anything other than slightly illegal purposes, but I don't think so. I think it's all quite legal, and there's all kinds of reasons why, but it's kind of bizarre. Most people won't know that Crawford was Crawford from Silence of the Lambs. People don't remember those things. They'll remember Scott Glenn, but they won't remember Crawford. So it was puzzling, so you just remove it. If it occupies you, so you're thinking about Jack Crawford's death, anything that makes you stop and think in the negative way, just take it out. Because all you're doing is you're interrupting your dynamics. Makes a call to a friend. There he is. I think you don't miss it. We'll just move in. I kind of like it. But again, it's introducing a character that you don't know who it is. What was that about? And it kind of stops you rather than just going with the ball.
Two fog. Dot.
Ronaldo.
What?
Who'd you get it from?
Not from you. I don't really know you.
This was, fingerprint trail. We abbreviated this down to and changed the order, so we made the exterior of the perfumery into a restaurant later in the other version. Here we have him following into the perfumery where he watches him, and this is where Hannibal has sensed that he's with him and spots him. There he is, small hand mirror. And that's in case I needed to know how. There it is. Romulo was the professional pickpocket who just did those two guys. Now he stops us as Romulo. And he's going to recruit her first. She always worked with the other guy, So they work as pairs. This is how they work. And it was when she actually tried the pickpocket in a church where he's actually drawing and he's copying something, some artifact in the church. She tries to go for him to pick his pocket, but he turns and looks at her, not knowing who she is, and scares the living hell out of her, so she can't do it, and she refuses to do it. And so he goes with her partner instead. So we kept it simple. We just had him go with, the other guy. One was better than two. Two takes too long. And so on.
I'm sorry, Commendatore. I too often say what I'm thinking. I'll be right back to help you.
Yeah, this was something we just had in the middle of this scene that we didn't think was needed. It was too long. You get to the point much quicker. It's not everything is about speed or swiftness, but it is about keeping the attention of the audience with the important facts and not allowing them to drift.
Homes to see if they have any Botticelli prints.
In their homes, that would be rather obvious, wouldn't it?
Serial killers are obvious. Their primary motivation is to be obvious, to be noticed.
But not caught.
Oh, yes. That too, I think.
And this is just introducing Il Mostro once again and making him part of the scene. Security guards who may relate to when the body drops out of the window, they cynically enough refer to students, thinking they're students who are organizing a stunt. And at the end of this tape, we realize that this guy has been watching from a dark corner, and he utters words of admiration like Madonna, or just gives him a bow. And those who get it, fine. Those who don't get it. The problem is, those who don't get it, it does matter, because they wonder what the hell that was all about, right? So that's why I thought it was too confusing, too diffused. And I had the workers in here who were doing restoration, which I think is clear, because then it gives you a reason why they have lecterns and ropes and floor polishers and stuff around the walls. But frankly, I went to all that effort and we just cut it out, and nobody's even asked the question, who were these people? And so rather than shooting this in a lengthy form where you see his whole preparation, you in fact start by intercutting the progress. You're already in progress.
On the related subject, I must confess to you, I'm giving very serious thought to eating your wife.
Madonna, that's admiration, but I think you just don't need it. Crunch. Heads looking down, accusation at the Judas who died. He walks towards the green screen, which now the first attempt at a mat, I think. There it is, empty. That's when he goes and waves to, which is where we used to say, is that hello or goodbye?
Federico, check it out.
Students.
Students.
I'm wondering now down below, wondering what this is. And there he knows he's been there all the time. Bows to the master. He leaves. It's too much. At the end of the death, him escaping on the motorcycle, after he's killed Carlo's brother, it's as if he switches off and he sees something beautiful at the end behind the Palazzo Vecchio, which is a music shop with a violin in the window. So this is Carlo coming to find him. He knows he's around here somewhere. He can't have gone that far. There he is. He knows he'd be heading away from it, so he goes around the back. He must have come out the back. As he gets there, coming down the street, there's Carlo and there's Hannibal, who's taken a little quiet time out, having committed 2 murders, and has gone to a beautiful window of a little shop, a hole in the wall, that repairs musical instruments, which I thought was rather pretty, so I just photographed it. So it's already taken him away from the murders he just committed. I thought good for a musical exchange. Guy's about to leave on his bike, and as he does that, Carlo comes around there, watches him go, but doesn't realize it was Hannibal. Now the police are coming, going around to the front of the Palazzo Vecchio. It takes too long. You don't need it. You want to get out of there, right? Oh, this is when we change the position of Barney coming to visit Mason Verger, and this one occurred within the film, I think maybe the end of the first act. Or later, sorry. And this was to introduce the scene of Barney meeting Verger for the first time with his pink box and the mask. He's got a new artifact he's selling him. On coming to the estate, he arrives at the same time as the arrival of the pigs. And so he passes by the pigs and is shocked by the smell of the pigs. But it tells us as an audience that, the pigs are here. But we like the position of the scene that comes at the end of all of this, at the beginning of the movie better. So all this went. There's the pigs. And there's one of the brothers. That's basically just saying they're here. Then he went inside the Verger household. This was shot just in case while I was doing the end scene of announcing Hannibal's going to the States. But I thought what worked out was much better, and this takes up too much time. There is hand with a ring. This was the jogging and the licking. Now, the other version I think is simply better. I think you don't need it. You don't need to see him behind her. The tension is better without. And I think the licking was okay in the book, too much on film. Somehow it is not dignified enough for Hannibal. There he is. There's the shots we use. Shorten it by half and it's more effective. On the top, he's on top watching her come back. Because of course he's a magnificent jogger, he's so strong. Can smell Clarice's perfume. And knows she's touched the wheel with her hand. Better without, I think. Oh, this is just shopping for, you know, setting himself up in house and home in somewhere in some state we don't know. And he comes into the knife shop and sees the broadcast.
Special Agent Starling, a 7-year veteran on the Bureau, began her career with an assignment to interview lethal madman Hannibal Lecter.
Dr. Lecter.
Receiving information from
May I help you, sir?
James Gum,
I'm sorry, I got distracted. Toby. Yeah, I'm looking for some good steak knives.
Ah, well, this is our kitchenware. Our houseware is right over there.
Oh, thank you.
Uh-huh.
The FBI and the Justice Department are looking very carefully into the charges, and yes, they're extremely...
That's where he identifies Paul Crenler. That was the whole point of him actually spotting him, but I think we didn't need all that shoe leather. And I thought I'd just hear him on radio was better and just switches it off, because then he'd go from here to Paul Crenler's house.
United in this decision? It's much too soon to condemn her.
You already have, Paul.
I was going to have that line in the car. I was watching him ride off. You already have, Paul, but I thought it was more mysterious without. This ending in the kitchen was, of course, without the wrist coming off or the hand coming off. But I found, whilst it was satisfactory, all this particular part in this close encounter was really powerful, which is the same as in the other version. It still needed something more. It needed an absolute demonstration of her being demonstratively immovable and therefore a straight arrow, which is kind of what he wants. But also a person who never stops trying. And that's what he loves about her. So, and also I thought this particular moment could be quite amusing because it's something he hadn't thought of before, which is when she cuffs him. But here we have it without, and it still works very well, but I think the other version works much better because it ends up on absolute demonstration of affection and sacrifice. He loses a hand. The other version we thought about doing at the end was where it ends up in the boat and she's handcuffed to him and the police have arrived at the house and they're looking back at the house, and to stop him, she's handcuffed to him and he jumps overboard into the lake, into the water. She goes overboard with him because she can't stay in the boat. She goes over with him. She's got no choice because of his weight, and he's sinking. So the choice becomes, do I drown with him or do I produce the key? And he's hoping that she's got the key on her, because if she hasn't got the key on her, they're both going to drown. There's no way he will go back to be incarcerated. There's no way he will ever go back to prison, and he'll sooner die than that. And she certainly believes that. And right there underwater, she produces the key. She has the key in her mouth. And of course, he's been too elegant a body searcher, and that's as simple as that. And she releases herself, sees him sinking away into the darkness, and he seems to smile and wave at her as he sinks. She surfaces and screams over here, and that's the end. Then we never see Hannibal again, so we think maybe he died. But I found that was too elaborate, too much of a kind of James Bond ending, and I found that this was far more in keeping with the film and kind of rather elegant. And again, right until the end, you have to keep thinking about why he did these things. It's earnest and heartfelt what he does, believe it or not, and I believe it. And then, much to our relief, we pick him up again in a moment, where he's obviously, again, it's rather perverse, but this person, this special criminal, this killer, is free, and I think we're rather pleased that he is. This was showing the very simple way out. I was trying to think about what I'd do, and I would have had a bicycle in the woods, and I'd have had bicycle clips, and I'd have ridden away, and if I heard a helicopter, stopped under a tree until it passed. Tony wanted to drive in the van, and so he'd walked through the woods away from the police, taking his time, pops into a van and disappears into the darkness. And this is a shot that didn't work. Kids still celebrating 4th of July. But, and he's off into oblivion. But we don't need that. Wide shot in a simulator. This extends the scene a little bit for the little boy. Everyone's asleep or watching the movie. Kid becomes kind of fascinated by this box of food that this person is eating. Now, the end of this scene was one that I almost favored, actually, but we thought maybe it's just too much. It's about corruption. And the way this goes, the fact that Anthony winks was perceived as being corrupting to a child, as opposed to the other way, where he lets the child make his own mind up. And then he says, I suppose it's all right.
This? Wow, that I don't think you would like.
It looks good.
Oh, it is good.
Can I have some?
You're a very unusual boy, aren't you?
I couldn't eat what they gave me.
Now, should you? It isn't really food as I understand the definition. That's why I always bring my own.
So here we see him. Here we see him.
She would.
He corrupts the child there, you see this? That's how subtle it gets.
So, which would you like to try?
General thought was, but he's corrupting the child.
Yes. I suppose it's all right. After all, as your mother would tell you,
I always wanted to do this part. I thought this was quite in order. And this.
Ask more. Okay.
It's kind of a nice ending, but we thought enough was enough.
Will you ever say to me, stop? If you love me, you'd stop.
Not in 1,000 years.
Not in 1,000 years. That's my girl.